The internet entered our lives at the end of the 20th century, and today we can no longer imagine our existence without the World Wide Web. Work, personal life and entertainment are all tied up in it. The internet has so filled our existence that several generations have grown up who can't imagine life without it. Kids today are, figuratively speaking, born with smartphones in their hands. That is why internet addiction is, in fact, a disease of the 21st century. What is an internet addiction, what are its causes, how dangerous it is, and how to combat it, is presented in an infographic of the Federal News Agency. What is internet addiction? Internet addiction, sometimes called internet addiction, is an obsessive-compulsive desire to constantly use the internet, the excessive use of it, spending a large amount of time on the web. Internet addiction is not recognized as a mental disorder in most countries, but in 2019, video game addiction and online gambling addiction are included in the lists of disorders according to official medical criteria, ICD-11. Meanwhile, internet addiction is considered a disease in Australia, China, India, Italy, South Korea, and Japan. Internet addiction is a disease of the 21st century. History: for the first time people talked about the internet addiction in 1995, when the World Wide Web had just begun to take over the world. The first person to describe this disorder was American psychiatrist Ivan Goldberg, who believed that excessive use of the internet can cause a painful stress state similar in effect to psychoactive substances. In Russia, the possibility of a destructive effect of the internet, especially on teenagers, was first raised in the 2000s. Today there are no official statistics on the number of people suffering from internet addiction. This is due to the fact that people with such problems prefer to remain in the shadows without seeking help. Moreover, in most countries, doctors do not recognize internet addiction as a disease. Nevertheless, the problem exists. Experts in the field of mental health cite the data that the diagnosis of internet addiction can be put about 7 to 10% of people on the planet, and the predisposition to this disorder exists in 40% of people. At the same time, in adolescents aged 12 to 13 years, this figure can reach 80%. Causes of internet addiction: psychologists call as the reasons the simplicity of the virtual world compared to the real one, the lack of any obligation and responsibility on the internet, loneliness, various personal and psychological problems, and so on. Symptoms of internet addiction: abstinence, voluntary refusal of everything, except spending time at the computer or with a gadget in his hands. Compulsivity, uncontrolled behavior, the only purpose of which is to be at the computer or with a gadget in his hands. Denial, reduction of criticism in relation to the possible negative consequences of one's behavior. Tolerance, reduction of the reaction to the duration of work at the computer or being on the internet. Internet addiction: a disease of the 21st century. Threats and risks. Clip mentality. A person perceives the world exclusively through short, bright images or small videos. Degradation, reduction of vocabulary, deterioration of perception of information. Failure of logical thinking, the ability to think sequentially, to separate the main from the secondary. Consequences of internet addiction: simplification of the picture of the world. The artificial intellect replaces the human intellect. The knowledge of teenagers most susceptible to this addiction becomes superficial. At the same time, painful internet addiction may appear at any age. How to treat internet addiction: there are no methods that have proved effective and safe yet. In China, where the problem of internet addiction is considered very serious, they are trying to treat teenagers, including harsh methods such as electroshock, which used to be used to treat mental disorders. However, according to psychiatrists, this method is extremely dangerous and has no effect on internet addiction. They are also trying to treat this disorder in Japan and in some other countries, but so far there is no data on the positive lasting results. According to forecasts, the number of people suffering from internet addiction to 2025 will amount to several billion. This is due to the fact that the number of internet users and the average time people spend online is increasing every year.